Beautiful. So what were you playing on the rhythm side there?
So this is kind of, this is another guitar show does elevator music.
Well, hey!
So rhythm side, I was taking a 2-chord vamp. It was a B minor 7, a little broken up version, and an E dominant 7. So just 7 on the E, 7 on the D, 7 on the G, and then for the E7 it was 7 on the A, 6 on the D, and 7 on the G. Treating
both of these, I would just add, as substitutions for, you know, if you're used to just playing standard B minor bar chord at the 7th fret, and then perhaps an E major or doing your E dominant 7ths like this,
normal shapes.
Not only is this a lot easier on your fingers using these chord shapes, they're more interesting. They're physically easier to play, but they just have a sound to them. Which, to reiterate, that is a musical situation. We've gone for a certain genre here, you know, the kind of piano bar, jazz bar kind of vibe, absolutely, and that really works. So one of the reasons we chose this one is it's a good way to cover a great example of where to use the Dorian mode. So it's not something to be too scared of. In fact, a lot of people learn the Dorian mode as where to add additional notes to the minor pentatonic. So if we think about minor pentatonic position 1 from the 7th fret, everybody watching this video should either have played that before, or that should be your first thing to do over this jam, because we're in a minor key, but also it just works for this musical situation as a first thing to try, a first way into this. And then I would describe, or many people learn the Dorian mode as filling in some of the spaces that this leaves. Primarily, every note that you're, or string that you're playing with the 1st and 3rd finger, we fill both of those in. So essentially that means on the thickest string, we add the 3rd finger in, and then on the thinnest 2 strings, we also fill them in as well. And then on the middle 2 strings, it's the 1st finger needs to go 1 fret lower on both the middle 2 strings. Like that. So that would be something that most guitarists would start to use when they're experimenting with blues improvisation. But here it really fits the musical situation, because when we were coming up with this jam, we're really thinking of the B minor to E7 as using the 2 and 5 chords actually in the key of A, which can, this could really throw a lot of people, but as I say, if this confuses you too much, think about it in the key of B minor, and the minor pentatonic works and the Dorian mode works, and these are the most common positions of both of those. But just to add a little extra spice into this, because we're using the 2 and the 5 chord out of the key of A, that means that the Dorian mode is going to work really well over this, because the Dorian mode is the second of the modes, so it would use. And I mean, this concept has always been very easy for me to understand, because modes were explained to me using a piano. So we have the Ionian mode, which is just the white notes on a piano.
Also known as a major scale.
Just the major scale. And then the Dorian mode, as a way it was explained to me initially, was starting on the D note and still just playing all the white notes on a piano. So it's kind of, it's the major scale, but starting from the 2nd note, which is why learning the major scale all over the neck, you're actually learning all the modes as well, just to try and get some high level content into there. What was your way into modes, and particularly Dorian?
Yeah, I struggled with it for a while. I think the way I think about it now is that they're just different flavors of sound. So like you said, it's a minor scale with some adjustments. So you hear that minor sound, but then suddenly you hear that note coming across and you think, oh, there's a little bit of
something. And the note that you've added there is a note from the E7 chord.
Yeah.
Which is the other way into why these notes work, because another higher level concept, rather than just playing whatever notes you happen to play when you're following one scale, is to try and play the chord tones of the chord that you're playing over. So when the E7 occurs, try and make sure that you're playing one of those one of those notes in your lead playing as well, which is when, for example, working with learning arpeggios and learning that kind of thing can be a very good advancing way to get a really cool sound, because you're speaking the same language as what the rhythm guitar player is, essentially. But yeah, just pulling it back to this particular jam, we've got these two chords. So the B minor, if you think about it as that as more of a overall shape, and then perhaps this way or even this. What I would encourage is the extra notes that are not part of the minor pentatonic, which I would say this one, and then in particular these two here, will sound great over when those particular chords happen. So when we're on the E7, for example, can you play the E7 chord for me? That note really works over it and has a lot of personality.
Now if you hold that, now there's a bit of spice.
There's definitely tension.
Yeah. So that's the B minor with the same note, and then.
And if I played this note, which is from the minor pentatonic,
sounds lovely. Over the B.
Over the next.
And then over the E. Very nice as well.
A bit more tension. And with all of this higher level content, all it's ever working on, and all music really is tension and release.
Yes.
There is a consonance and dissonance, and it is different. There's no right or wrong with it up to a certain point. In fact, a lot of the time we can actually play notes that are totally out of key, but if you just don't stay on them and you use it as a colouring and adding it for taste, it's a really cool way into it. If there was one lick I was to demo from what I was playing earlier, it is definitely a flick-off lick, which is quite good for any Dorian or any blues players. You guys will, and even classic rock and metal. In this particular case, demoing on the thinnest string, my first finger's at the 7th fret, 9th fret with the middle, and then 10th fret. You could do this with your little finger and 3rd finger. No right or wrong, it's entirely up to you. We can then do, and that was getting a solid sound of like every time you flick off, it wants to sound like it's been picked.
That's the hard part of it.
That's it. And you will only, even though if you want to do, to train that to sound better, you need to get it controlled first. And especially when you go to the other string, otherwise you're going to get other strings ringing out probably. And then, so it's exactly the same frets, so that's why Dorian's great on the thinnest 2 strings. And then pulling that to the middle 2 strings, I would probably be using my little finger.
That sounds great over the B. So does that well.
Either way. All of that kind of
sounds great.
Fits the musical situation, and it's just something a little bit more advanced, but based on something, especially if you could do the other ones, entirely based on the same stuff. So that's what we have to share with you this week with another guitar show. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and remember, everything here is ready and waiting for you to experiment with and learn from on the websites, on both the Your Guitar Academy website and the Andy Guitar site, and you can get the jam tracks for everything that we've done here. And please experiment, it's a lot of fun, and I think a lot of acoustic guitarists are a little afraid of lead guitar. They think perhaps, that's for the electric guitar players, that's not for me. And firstly, it improves everything. If you start to look more at lead guitar, it starts to make everything else fit together. You see the overall picture. But also, it can entirely be something that everyone can do. It's based on stuff that you're already doing most of the time.